We'll call our regular meeting of the board to order. We have a full quorum of the board here this evening. I'd like to welcome everybody that's here in person and anybody that's joining us remotely via phone or YouTube. Required reading before we get started. March 16, 2020, Governor Abbott granted a request by Attorney General Paxton to temporarily suspend the limited number of open meeting laws to the extent necessary to allow telephonic or video conference meeting in response to COVID-19. In accordance with those suspended rules, we certify the following. Midway ISD will have a regularly scheduled board meeting February 23, 2021 at 7 p.m. Members of the public may participate in the meeting by telephone by dialing 1-513-277-0626, and the PIN is 418-354-258. The meeting can also be viewed using the following YouTube link at www.youtube.com/user/MidwayISDPR. In order to make comment on any agenda item, a member of the public needed to make a request by noon today, and we had no such requests. Notice of the meeting has been posted for at least 72 hours online. We in the past have been using Google Meet software to allow two-way communication. I don't think that will be required for tonight since we didn't have anyone sign up to speak. A recording of this meeting is being made and will be made available to the public at a later date. If you have any questions about the suspended laws, please call the Office of the Attorney General at 888-672-6787, or you can contact them by email at toma@oag.texas.gov. So, that said, Pledge of Allegiance. I understand Dr. Popejoy is going to help us with recognition tonight, and in light of that and the fact that I had a birthday last week.
Oh. Keith, a Valentine's Day.
29.
Valentine's Day baby.
Valentine's baby.
Young man. Would you lead us in the pledge, Andy?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then we have a number of students here to be recognized tonight and some honor roll schools. So without further ado, George.
Thank you, Mr. Russick, members of the board, and thanks to Dr. Popejoy for helping out this evening. I'd like to introduce to you Ms. Allison Smith, our principal at Midway High School, because tonight we have some academic all-state football players. We're very pleased to have a large number of students that met the category, and we would love to congratulate them this evening. So, Ms. Smith.
Okay, and I'm going to ask Coach Jeff Hume to come up here and help us with the awards as well as Dr. Popejoy. So, thank you, Coach Hume. Okay, so we're talking about academic all-state football tonight. Midway High School student athletes work hard to succeed both in the field and on the field and in the classroom. Congratulations to the Panther football players for their commitment and dedication to perform with the highest of excellence. And so, Coach Hume and Dr. Popejoy, you guys, as you come in, you'll come in one at a time. And first on the elite team is Miguel Convento. Also on the elite team is Walker Pierce. He's at baseball tonight. Messing up the pictures. Next, we have Samuel Odedeji. And then we have honorable mention, and I don't believe Reed Cromie's here with us tonight, or Tashi Franzen, but last but not least is Peyton Parnell.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. Thank you, Coach Hume. Congratulate one more time these outstanding scholars and scholar athletes. Dr. Popejoy, don't go anywhere. We would like to now recognize 5 Midway schools that have been named to the 2019-20 Educational Results Partnership Honor Roll for high achievement and student success. So tonight we're congratulating Midway Middle School, Woodgate Intermediate, South Bosque Elementary School, Spring Valley Elementary, and Woodway Elementary. These schools are among the top 3,490 public schools in the nation to receive this distinction. So, principals that are here tonight, so first of all, let's have Dr. Stacy Voigt come up for South Bosque Elementary School. Come on up. Mr. Jay Fisher, come on up for principal of Spring Valley. Mr. Wes Conoyer, principal of Woodgate Intermediate School. All right. And the others unable to be here this evening, but so again, a principal, of course, of Woodway is Ms. Angela Kirkpatrick and Dr. Herb Cox of our middle school. Schools that appear on the honor roll have demonstrated consistent high levels of student academic achievement, improvement in achievement levels over time, and a reduction in achievement gaps among students. And so the middle school, Woodway Intermediate, Spring Valley, and Woodway received recognition in the STAR category as high-performing achievement gap closing schools, and South Bosque was recognized as an achievement gap closing school exhibiting high performance without, though, significant levels of low-income students. And so congratulations to all of these ERP honor roll. They've demonstrated the ability to get our students to grade level and grade level achievement and beyond. So congratulations to all 5 of these campuses.
All right then, we have one information item on a new club, and unless somebody has a question about that, we'll go straight to the presentation discussion items. The first one of which is the schematic design for the Information Technology Center, which it's great that we are even having a discussion about this.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so.
Well, good. I'm glad. See, we're excited tonight. So first, I would like gladly introduce to you Mr. David Wright of Rbdr Architects. He has been our chief and lead architect on this project. I have to again apologize to David. Initially, we began planning and had to put this project on hold just to be sure our projects, we would have the bond funds in order to complete this project. But as you know, we were under budget with the Career Tech Center and the River Valley project, and right on budget with our new elementary school. And so I feel very, very comfortable now with proceeding with this project. So he had put in some work previously, and now he met again with Mr. Garn, our Director of Technology, and with Dr. Johnson to help plan, and her team to help plan the other side of the building, the Excel side. So David, I'm turning it over to you. Welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Kazanis. Thank you, Board. I'm also happy we're having this discussion. Probably not quite as happy as Mr. Garn and Dr. Johnson, but I'm happy to be here. So I guess everybody's familiar with the building. This is the big CMU block building over there on Panther Way behind the Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was built in the early 90s as a Food Lion grocery store, and most recently we've got the S2G call center people in there right now. I went out there last summer and walked it with our structural engineer, and the building seems to be in remarkably good shape. Really didn't see any structural failures happening or any signs of any cracking or anything like that in the mortar around the building. It seems very solid. It's a load-bearing CMU wall on the exterior wall, and then it's got steel columns and bar joists inside. It's really just a big empty pallet for you guys. It's got some other existing stuff going on that's very handy. It's got a loading dock, of course, because it was a grocery store, so for receiving equipment and things like that, I think it's going to be great for Jesse and his people. We've also got an existing building sprinkler system in place, so we'll have to modify that for sure, but it's already there, so we're not buying risers and, you know, sprinkler piping and all that stuff. And I think there's even, if I remember from last summer correctly, I believe there's even an old grease trap out there, and we're talking about putting a kitchen in there. So that's something else we might otherwise have to buy and install, but because that's there, I think it's serviceable and can be cleaned up and re-hooked up and all that and used. So great old building. I don't see why it can't serve you guys well into the future. So with that said, let me walk you through the plan that we've got here. We've really got 4 components in this building. We've got some district training, we've got some technology, Excel learning, and we've got a small component of social services in there. So as you enter the building off of the Panther Way side, the entry will pretty much stay like it is. I mean, basically the whole building is going to get gutted, so everything is going to be new and fresh. There's nothing we're really keeping, but the entrance is going to remain at the same place it is with a large vestibule there. We see that as being something where there'll probably be a staff that will sit out there as a reception to monitor coming and going traffic for all the different departments. But in yellow, right immediately behind the reception area, that is your district training facility. Our goal was to try to accommodate at least 200 folks in there with a training table type setup. We've done that. We've got it set up for about 208 people as it's shown. Another nice component of that is, I don't know if you can see the little dash lines in there, but there's a couple of operable partitions that can be opened or shut as needed, and that big space could be partitioned off into 3 smaller spaces with entrances and exits for each one of those spaces for people to come and go without having to wade through other spaces to get there. There's another part of the blue section, I'll get to that in a minute, but you can see just to the right of that yellow space, there's a kitchen there, and the kitchen is really set up to primarily serve the Excel learning component of the space, but that also can serve for catering to the training space. We have a big window there and a counter, so that will work really, really nice for functions where you need to serve food for the district training. So really excited about the district training space. From what I understand, talking to Dr. Kazanas, y'all really need something like that. So that is a major component here. Up on the, we'll say north is up on the north side, all the blue area you see there is the Excel learning space. You can see across the outside wall at the top, there's 7 classrooms there of various configurations, and we'll look at those here in a little more detail in a minute. Below that, there's a row of smaller offices there, some offices, a couple of conference rooms, and a workroom for the staff and faculty there. And then back in the upper right-hand corner is basically your bank of plumbing back there. The plumbing is there in that vicinity now, so we tried to limit the amount of saw cutting and jackhammering and whatnot to be economical with our dollars, so we've kept the plumbing back in that area. We've got a couple of banks of restrooms for the kids, and then another bank of restrooms for the faculty and staff back there. And then some miscellaneous support spaces with your riser rooms, some storage, and IDF and whatnot, janitor's closet. And then adjacent to the district training, again in blue there, you can see the cafeteria space there just to the north of the kitchen, and then the kitchen that we mentioned prior that would service that. And so that, everything in blue there is really your Excel learning, with a couple of the office, I believe, are sort of earmarked for your social services staff would do that. And then down on the lower side, everything in green there is your technology department. And you can see there's just an abundance of offices and conference and training rooms. Some of the training rooms are set up as kind of as flex space, depends on how you lay out the furniture in there. You can, depending on what kind of furniture you buy, you can orient those as a conference table or maybe set them up as a training style room or whatnot. But then also you got some support spaces with your copy work area, miscellaneous storage and whatnot. And then back in the back corner, we have, again, your plumbing there for everybody, restrooms, which is situated there now. We wanted to keep that pretty much where it was. We've got your restrooms back there, break room, and then sort of the heartbeat of the whole technology side, you've got your data center and your NOC, and then your repair room, I think it's what we're calling technology repair room adjacent to that. And then off of your loading dock area, we've got a nice big receiving area there to receive your pallets of equipment, and then a nice good-sized warehouse where we can set up some, Home Depot-style shelving back there to house a lot of equipment back there. So, and then a little small plant off the side is your mezzanine, and that's an existing mezzanine. We're not building any new mezzanines. It's already there in place, so that can be utilized from the warehouse by the technology people. It's already got a hoist and everything in place. So that's pretty much the rundown of what we're doing. I think it laid out really nice. The traffic flow is good. I've had a lot of good input from Mr. Garn and Dr. Johnson and Dr. Kay. So seems to work real well. So we're excited. And if anybody has any questions or comments, I would entertain those now.
This is probably obvious, but on the yellow, the yellow has two of those squares that look like they're like shutters.
Yes.
What are those?
Those are the operable partitions.
Okay.
That's the
So
stacking
I'll fold
space.
them.
Obviously,
Okay.
when they stack up, they got to have,
Somewhere to go.
yeah, several linear feet of stacking space. So that's the two partitions stacked up there.
From the data center side of things, utility-wise, are we able to get redundancy for major utilities?
We have, the other thing I didn't mention is we have a generator sitting out back there that's, was used for the grocery store again, and I've had the MEP folks come down and look at it, and I think it's operational, and again, probably needs a little service to it, but it's there, so it's another major expense that you shouldn't have to spend a lot of money on to get that thing up and running.
Fiber, all that stuff coming in the building?
I'm not sure about fiber.
There's currently AT&T and Spectrum Fiber coming into that building.
You got two providers coming in right now?
We currently only pay for one provider for the district, but there's an option for either one.
Oh, what's she giving?
It's a microphone to hear him better.
Yeah.
All the better to hear.
Are there any other redundancy needs that you're thinking about that you need?
Most of that has been already planned into the data center piece of the building. That's, like David said, that's the heart of where we want to provide redundancy, like dual power buses to each one of our racks. Big gaseous fire suppression we talked about in the past, the big diesel generator in the back.
So on a daily basis, how does is it easier for someone on the green side to get over to the blue side? Or did they have to go all the way around to the end of the building to get across, or through the yellow area?
Yes, to get from one side to the other, basically you would go through the common vestibule at the front. We intentionally didn't want cross-traffic just for security purposes.
Gotcha. Right.
So we didn't want any doors. I mean, at one time we had a door going from the green side into the yellow, and they didn't, we decided that was not even a good idea. So just for security purposes, you'd loop around through the common area.
Okay.
So I'm assuming in the data center itself, you're not going to use the fire sprinkler system, you're going to put in an halon or something equivalent?
Sprinklers would be a bad idea in the data center, yes, sir. Yeah.
So the social workers will be in the blue?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
I'll
sir.
tell you, my concern is that we're really cutting up the buildings, especially on the technology side. I count 18 offices.
Yes, sir.
And once you put up walls and run electrical, you're done with the flexibility. If you want to change it later, it's very, very expensive to start tearing up walls. And so I guess my question is, aside from Jesse, who clearly needs, a private office, because he manages people and has to have private conversations with his employees, do we need this many private offices?
Yeah, that's really just a question for, I guess, the district to answer that, and Jesse. there's opportunity there to carve this up any number of different ways. I mean,
Right.
there's some spaces here where, if you took 3 offices there and took out the partitions, you could make one big open flex space, or maybe one of those conference rooms becomes, some open flex space. So there's any number of ways. It's really an open palette to do whatever we want to do with it. So, nothing I've got here is necessarily set in stone. I agree that the trend in office design, at least pre-COVID, was towards more open space.
Flex.
And flex space and shared space. I'm not sure that once we get through this COVID mess, I don't know if that's really going to still continue to be the trend or not. I think with the COVID thing, a lot of people are now starting to take a step back and go, do we really want more offices to kind of give more separation and kind of, so we don't get into this mess again. So, I don't know if that's going to come about or not, but.
Well, I've built a few buildings in the past on the business side, and flexibility has always been the key. And the term cubes gets a really bad reputation
Yeah.
because of what they first looked like back in the 80s. But the more modern ones are essentially like offices, but you retain the flexibility, and there's very little difference in expense between flexing with the cubes versus putting up hard walls. Jesse, I'm sure you have some comments on this. I mean, 18 offices just from the outside seems a little many.
Yeah, so
And
3 of
the
those,
microphone isn't working, Jesse. It's not making you any
Just for
louder.
the live audience.
Oh, okay.
yeah, so part of this move will.
Come on up here, Jesse.
Yeah, can you
So we can hear, so we can hear you.
You are one live person.
Forgot about the live audience. Yeah, no, I thought you were, so we can hear you. I thought so we can hear you up here.
Part of the move will also include bringing over our student data department. So there's 3 ladies who deal with sensitive information on a daily basis. And then in speaking with my professional staff, they all prefer offices. Given the vast amount of space in this area, I thought we could accommodate these folks who like offices and would like to have private conversations, and still have areas that, as you mentioned, are flex space. So if we needed more cubes later, we could make training areas cubes. We could make that warehouse unloading area could become a huge flexible space later with cubes if we needed to. But this would give us space for our current professional staff, the student data folks we're bringing over, possibly Dr. Rbdr, and then allow us to grow up to 3 more professional staff and have an office space for them too in the future.
So how many, we're talking about 3 student?
There's currently 3 in student data. Yeah.
3, all right. And then how many of your staff?
I have a total of 12.
Okay,
Yeah, 4 technicians.
all right. And how many of them manage people and have to review people and need those kinds of conversations?
So the 4 technicians obviously wouldn't have those conversations. Sometimes there's password reset conversations. Yeah, I mean, so the private conversations would be as to sensitive systems, like setting up systems, having conversations with vendors, possibly. In looking at this, we did talk to Ed Newman over at the Service Center, just recently went through an office remodel, and I asked him, if you could do this over again, what would you change? Because he's got an open floor plan for the most part. And he said he would build more offices because of the conversations, the overlap between the conversations. That's the #1 complaint he gets. So I understand there's give and take, and there's definitely a need to have areas that are flexible for when you need to make changes in the future. So that's why we put some large, more open spaces in this plan.
Well,
My thought about the growth, to Mr. Pagel's point about the growth I was sharing with Jesse, is certainly if you're looking at the offices that are adjacent to the district-wide training center, I know David has conference training flexible, even those 2 offices next to it don't have to be built just yet. They all could remain flexible for that section. As Jesse's saying with some of the technicians, the data center, but next to it says Tech Repair Flex. There's the ability, if we grow with those with the need for an office, then they could move into that area as well. And we just have that ability because of the space to do that. But with the 3 PEMs, Dr. Rbdr, and we have a network administrator that I highly recommend has a office that's not a technician, and those that handle our web work. And again, for those folks that aren't the technician that go off to the campuses, it is for the privacy, but it's also for the, again, distraction. They're less distracted.
Distraction's a key point. I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of times when we're dealing with data programming or setting up a new system, it's important to have total concentration. And hearing the other conversations in the room, I feel it could detract from that concentration.
I think you can do cubes that eliminate that. They're not all cube farms. I mean, there are those that are 8 feet high and have doors. It's just flexibility. I'm just a little concerned about cutting up the space right from the very beginning.
Right.
Frankly, I probably should have pushed a little harder in this building about creating more flex space, because now we're putting people in closets here because we don't have space. We cut up the building, probably a little too much. Of course, hindsight is always 20/20.
That's true.
And I just don't want to do it again. We've got this opportunity, a blank slate, a really nice building. You can always put walls up later. It's a whole lot cheaper to put a wall up than to tear it down.
That's true.
I would like to see, for me personally, build it out to where the people that you mentioned, have their offices, which is a smaller number than 18. And leave the flex space, and then if we decide we need that office space, instead of putting people in broom closets and taking up our storage, which we always need more storage, right? I don't want to see our storage go away. Do something then, if you need it. But in the meantime, focus on flexibility for growth. That's just my.
Well, on that same side, I'm curious, what's the capacity for our Excel program, and have we created enough margin for growth there as well? Do we know how many students that accommodates?
And we met with Dr. Johnson. We met with some of the staff that currently work at Excel.
Right.
We had a committee that got together, including Allison Smith and then some Excel staff and a counselor or a couple of counselors. And what we wanted to do was to think differently as well. We don't want to have blinders on as far as what we have always done.
Right.
We want it to grow. We want it to be very innovative. But we wanted to include as many people as we could. So our idea is to have 2 sessions, a morning and a late afternoon or even into the evening, combining with even dual credit possibilities, ESL classes for adults that can come in there. So the space that you see up against the north end, those 5 classrooms, those each have capability for 24 apiece. So you can see that would greatly increase the numbers that we currently have.
For sure.
Currently, right now, we stick about 50.
Right.
We're a 55 max. And so we wanted to at least double that, and then if you have 2 sessions, you'd really be doing well. So you see a little bit of flex space there as well. We wanted the students to be able to do individual work on the computers, but also be able to come into some flex space and into some spaces where it could be lecture style if needed. And then we also know that during the day there might be possibilities where we would have large group settings in the yellow area.
Right. Do we know how many kids you can seat at a time in that cafeteria?
Oh, I think I may have like 32 or something, like 24, you can count from here.
Okay.
It looks like I could probably add another couple of tables in there.
Okay.
I would think you could seat 30 plus or so in there.
So if you wanted to have an event, and if you wanted something much bigger, they could, there's somewhere else in the building they could be?
Yes.
Okay. I know that's been a fast-growing program. We keep having more and more students who like that alternative learning option, and I don't want to carve it up and cap ourselves. So do we feel like this is going to,
We started off wanting it to be all flex space and real big and open, and when we really thought about it, there's so many times where a student needs to be individually working at a computer, and when you look at those classrooms where there's 24, 12 on each side, that was the best use of the space.
Okay, right.
If you flip over the second slide, I forgot to mention the second slide. That's just a blow up of the classrooms and some of the more signature spaces in there. You can see the one Dr. Johnson was talking about, the lecture style on the left, and then a flexible seating classroom, and then we've got, I think, 5 of the computer classrooms shown there, and then in the green, that's the data center and the NOC, and then the blow up of your district-wide training center. Obviously, you can see the curtains are a little better operable partitions.
What kind of ceiling types are you designing for? Is it open or?
Yeah, I think it would just be your standard, just your suspended acoustical ceiling,
And then
pretty much throughout. There may even be some open space. Jesse and I talked last summer, it's been a while, but we talked about having some open space and just exposing some bar joists, again, to save a little bit of money, and just, painting some flat black structure up above and not even putting a ceiling in some spaces. I think as technology, they'd probably like that, so that would work good for them.
And these walls, are they going to deck, or are they just going to go?
I think some of them will need to go to deck just for sound transmission issues, but we may be able to do some other things with taking them up just above the ceiling and doing some sound baths above, because we're pretty tall to the deck.
Let's say
So I really don't want to run everything in the building up to deck if we can avoid it. I think if we can just, we're probably going to have to do some fire separation from the assembly occupancy of the district-wide center, from the education space on that side. So those will definitely have to go to deck, and also from the district and probably the technology as well. So there's going to be a little bit of fire separation, but otherwise we'd like to probably only take up what we really need to, and maybe we'll do some stuff with sound baths above the ceiling and things like that for sound transmission, not buy all that stud all the way up to the deck.
I tend to try not to agree with Tom too much, but I will say
That's a wise move.
in my experience in a technical business environment, there's a lot of benefits to the open environment. I mean, there's a lot of collaboration, a lot of cross solutions that happen in a technical environment. So, I mean, I know it's trade-off between the privacy and whatnot. I mean, my team, when they need to go private, they put on headphones, and everybody knows to leave them alone. But we personally see a lot of benefit when problem solving is happening out loud, and many people can be engaged because of the open environment. So, for what it's worth.
Points well taken.
And I think, again, my thoughts and final thoughts about it all is that we have it all with this. And we're able to do everything we wanted to do and more with this purchase of the MSI building. We never planned for that type of building. We really just planned for, in our bond, was the technology, the turquoise color here that David has, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot, but on the turquoise, like how many square feet would you say that encompasses the technology?
We actually have the district training is just a little under 6,000 feet. Technology is just about 14,000 square feet, including the warehouse in the back. And the Excel learning side, social services, is just a little under 12,000 square feet. So that's pretty much how it's divided up. The total building is a little over 32,000 square feet.
So my comment was that I remember the discussion was between 10 and 11 was initially what we were planning. And if we were starting from scratch and building a tech center, we were looking at 10, 11,000 square feet. Didn't really plan, because this building has this warehouse, this loading dock, that's a bonus. We would love to have had something like that, but that wasn't a have to. So I'm saying that additional square footage is there. So about the comments about just, again, I'm pointing to the numerous areas for cross collaboration and getting together. We have both. Oftentimes the cubicles and the open spaces are when you don't have square footage to do that. And yes, you do need that to occur, and you just need to be flexible with it. But we have that abundance of that, and I'm even recommending, again, the top area there where it says conference, that room, you could not develop any of that there. That could all just be one wall between them or something, and all that remain flexible till we need it to grow into it, at least that part. But the other one, as I said, is design, and where those windows are located on the building and all, the bottom row there, to me, and across from it. Makes a lot of sense, again, not only for technology, but for Dr. Ojima and our instructional learning specialists, if we have others that are housed there part of the day too, again, we're just, and it's growth, and it's a building for future growth in our area, because we have everything else. We have the data center, the nod. We have a tech, even separate repair center. And as I said, we have a huge warehouse and loading dock. We have everything we would want. And then on the training center was never wildest dreams. Would we have a training center? We put close to 90 in here, which is really not that comfortable. It's the most we've ever been able, 80 to 90 in this particular room. Very flexible, but now having this possibility and the growth and how we've grown in staff and being able to do district-wide training is phenomenal. And then your question about how many students, doubling at least or more the size of students that we could serve, and to be where it's located, and to be in this type of first-class facility. Folks, it's currently in portables next to the DAEP where Excel is. This is a first-class facility, and where we are with COVID and what we anticipate that might look for delivery of education for some students from here on out. We now have this ability to do that in this facility. So I'm just saying, all of those put to say is that we have so much current flexibility that I think David has laid out. All four, if we want to add more, we could, but I was pointing out areas that I think we could for now, and then go in and add walls later if we need to. As mentioned, we could do that, or Buddy and his team could do that for us at some point, just not finish out some of it. But I do recommend that those are important for us, for current staff and for future growth, knowing we still have all the space in the world to flex out and to move some people to flex space in the future if need be.
Yeah, it's a great building. I didn't even mention it's got a nice big concrete parking lot out there. So
it's a concrete parking lot.
Shouldn't have a lot of maintenance on your parking lot. Needs a new roof.
Yeah.
You know, we've got estimates of $300,000 to put a new roof on it, but other than that, it's a good building.
Still the two entrances off Hewitt Drive and or
Yeah.
Panther. So.
Is there an estimate on how long it would take to complete?
I wouldn't think it'd take more than about 6 months to do this. I mean, we're all dried in from day one. I mean, we are actually going to enlarge some of the windows, existing windows. The windows on it now, down on the south side, on the technology side, are kind of skinny little windows, so we're going to enlarge those a little bit. So there is a little bit of exterior work, but by and large, it's all inside, so they ought to be able to go, blow and go on day one, not worry about bad weather days and all that. So I would think, I mean, we'll get a construction manager on board, and he'll tell us more about it and start to, I've got enough information here. They should be able to come on board and also kind of refine cost estimates and stuff like that and get us closer on that. But we'll see what he says about time. But I wouldn't think it'd take more than 6 months. Jesse was talking about trying to get in by Christmas, and I think that's possible. If we can get these drawings out, get approved and get the drawings out pretty quick, I think it's possible we could get in by Christmas so he can move over Christmas. If not, I certainly think he can move it spring break.
So the next question is, can you move during the school year? Is Christmas break or spring break long enough for you to? Short answer would be no. Certainly, you'd want to do that over a break, so we have time to move our equipment and minimize the amount of downtime. So like Christmas break would be long enough? Christmas break would be great. Spring break would be pretty good too. Okay. And while I have the mic, I would say thank you guys for considering this plan. This is the culmination of all the needs that were identified in our facility study. The result of many meetings with us and David and our team. Many whiteboard drawings. We did field visits to data centers from school districts with similar demographics as us. New office buildings, the service center, and we're really excited to move forward. I really would have liked to have this data center last week. This would have been really nice. And this is the sort of thing that it's going to protect us against natural disasters and those sort of things. We really realize how much we depend on technology. I mean, the doors were down, right? No access control, no server access, no e-finance, nothing. Everything is down when this is down, and I believe it deserves a facility, that reflects that.
Mm-hmm.
In that regard, David, the generator that's there, does it have enough capacity to run the whole tech side?
Yes.
Okay.
a gazillion gigawatts. Yeah, that generator ran a grocery store full of freezers and fridges.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll run a tech center, you bet. And then some.
Well, it'll run a whole district.
Yeah.
We could deploy in a few, houses to
All right, any other discussion on this one, folks? Questions? All right, very good. We got this on the consent agenda. We'll take it up then. David, thank you for being here
Thank you
tonight.
so much.
Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
You bet. Appropriately so, Jesse, technology update.
Well, I'm already here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for the opportunity to talk to you guys tonight and give you a technology update. It's definitely been a very challenging, exciting year to work in technology. Here's an overview of the things we're going to touch on, starting with an update on our one-to-one device program. First, thank you guys for your support. About this time last year when we came to you with a plan to refresh our fleet, thankfully, because we moved quickly, we were able to get our order in before the pandemic, which meant that we got our devices before Apple ran out of iPads. A lot of school districts who did a one-to-one at the last minute were not so lucky, and some of them are actually still waiting on their devices, especially the state-subsidized devices. As a result, we were able to do our summer refresh. We refreshed 9,330 staff and student iPads this summer and had them ready to go for the first day of school, August 24th. Thanks to help from all the campuses and ILS, is a huge undertaking. One of the benefits I'll point out, having been one-to-one for 7 years versus a school district who just went one-to-one because of the pandemic, our teachers and our students were already familiar with this platform, for the first day of school. So it's a huge benefit to us, and kudos to you guys for having that foresight. With the device refresh came an opportunity to refresh our mobile device management system. Whereas our old system, AirWatch, was more business-focused, the new system we have, Mosul, is more education-focused. With that comes some features that classroom teachers really like the ability to control what apps and which websites students can get to in the classroom, and also the ability to lock them into an app or lock them into a website for testing purposes. Some fun stats: we are currently managing 365 unique iPad apps across our 9,332 iPads for a total of 260,000 managed iPad apps. Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
All right, so with the pandemic, we've seen an overwhelming adoption of video conferencing software. Early on, we decided to standardize on Google Meet as a tool for video conferencing due to its higher level of security, existing integration into our systems. We already had user accounts and such. And we knew early on that it was important for us to standardize on one platform so that we could provide better support to our staff and students. Google Meet's allowing students at home to receive video instruction from their teachers. It's allowing us to continue staff meetings when face-to-face is no longer an option. Some may even argue that the virtual staff meetings are more efficient. Just in the last month, we've had over 9,000 video meetings with Google Meet. And that's not rare. That's been that month over month since it started. We heavily utilize this product. Another way Midway has been lucky is that about 97% of our families live within broadband coverage areas. And for the others, we've been able to provide hotspots as needed. But we wanted to provide another option for families, especially our virtual learners, for instances, say, when the internet may have gone out and they've got an assignment due and they need to get it turned in. So we added an outdoor wireless access point to each of our 10 campuses. It's a place where you could go and park, and the iPads are already configured to connect to it automatically. So you park there, you get connected, and you could last minute turn something in. So we made maps for each of the campuses, put it on the website. The areas highlighted in green are the ideal places to park and get the best wireless signal. E-rate.
Question on that, are all the parking lots open 24 hours a day? I know some of them have gates on them. I'm looking at Woodway right there. Is that?
The facilities question, I'm not sure which ones have gates.
Yeah, they're all open.
They're all, okay.
Those gates are here for sure.
I think they have access, all of our areas have access 24 hours. It's a good question, though. If you're not familiar with E-rate, it's a federal program that subsidizes schools for internet access and internal connections. You have to apply for it every year to get this funding. It's divided into 2 categories. E-rate Category 1 covers your internet access and your interconnecting fibers. We are already in contract with Grande for internet, so there wasn't a bid necessary there. We will be looking at bids for fibers to connect the new technology center as well as the new elementary school. And we get a 50% discount on all of that from the government. E-rate Category 2 covers all your internal connections like routers, switches, wireless access points. If those are approved, we're also a 50% district on that. This year, the items we've requested are the items we're going to need to get those new schools up and running. So networking equipment, wireless access points. These are things that we were going to have to buy anyway. So if we can leverage E-rate on this, we can maximize our bond dollars. Our bids were due last Friday. We're going to start evaluating those in the coming weeks and hopefully have a recommendation for your consideration in March. Here's the criteria we'll use to find the winning bidder, with cost being the most heavily weighted metric. In all, this year, we've done a total of 1,900 completed work orders. Distribution-wise, high school and middle school are number 1 and 2, respectively. Elementary schools are very evenly distributed on the number of work orders. One anomaly was that Woodgate had twice that of River Valley. We think that's perhaps due to the age of the building. Top categories we see are computer hardware, printers, and then Apple devices includes iPads and Apple TVs, and then the phones at 142. So this is the first full year that we are requiring all new vendors who have access to staff and student data to sign a digital privacy agreement with the school before we do business with them. What this agreement does is it forces the vendors to specifically define which data elements they're going to use for us to use their program. And they agree to no advertising, no sale of that data, and also if there is a data breach and that's due to their negligence, they're financially responsible to cover like identity monitoring and things to remediate on our side. So it's a huge step forward in data privacy, and it puts us in a much better spot as we share data with lots of companies, unfortunately. It's now standard part of our onboarding process for new software. It's really picking up steam in Texas. There's 122 districts right now that have TXDPAs in place. And we, Midway, have 23 now signed DPAs with software vendors. So we made a lot of progress this year. We've gone from 3 to 23.
Good.
Another security enhancement we've added this year is a new email security appliance. The new appliance is better able to detect malware and marketing messages. It's making email experience not just safer, but easier to manage for our users. When it sees marketing messages, it now puts in brackets marketing or bulk. And I know Dr. K can attest to this, we were just talking about it, how much easier it makes us sort your inbox with the new filtering system. Some fun stats about email, and this only goes back to September 20th, but 8.6 million total messages have come into the district, and of those, 70% are blocked immediately as spam or virus. 1.2 million are the marketing we were talking about, and then a mere 15% are the ones that are allowed clean through. So largely spam and virus, so we're real thankful to have the new appliance in place. And finally, the results of our most recent security audits. Our most recent audit was actually in January. We have an external audit done every single month. It's a scanning for open ports, unpatched software, and that sort of thing. This last time, and as well as all the previous times, there's been no critical or high-risk vulnerabilities found. And we've been given the status of reasonably secure. Now, while that might seem a little ambiguous, there's no such thing as totally secure unless you unplug the internet. So reasonably secure is actually a really good rating to receive from Sentinel Cyber Intelligence. Back in October, we had a more intensive audit done, also done by Sentinel. We actually gave this company access to one of our internal network drops, and they brought a device loaded with hacker tools and with the intention of getting into every system we have and breaking it or gaining access, sorry, not breaking it, they're white hat hackers, getting access to it, right? And they like to boast that in most cases, in their clients, when they do this internal scan, they're able to gain admin access. Well, I'm happy to report they were unable to gain admin access on any of our systems.
You unplug it?
So in closing, again, thank you guys for your support. It's important. We couldn't do what we do if not for it. And if you had any questions about anything, I'd be happy to answer them now.
I'm just thankful you're proactive in many of the things you do
Yes.
with our technology, so that's excellent.
Very good.
Yeah, I do have a question. I think it's great we're going to our vendors and getting their, a higher level of commitment from them from a security standpoint. What level of promises do we make to our users? Do we have any kind of commitments there, written or otherwise?
Are you referring to like an acceptable use policy?
Well, yeah. So to our staff and students is about the safety of their data and, I know there's requirements from the state. I don't know how explicit we are.
I would defer to that we certainly follow all the required guidelines from the state, sure.
Yeah. And do we have some kind of liability insurance in that realm or anything that is needed, any additional coverage?
We get
hacked or anything?
there is a policy that we get for cybersecurity incidents that comes with, is it our TASBO?
I think Wesley would have to tell us.
TASB, yeah. And then, of course, that's why we perform security audits.
Yeah.
If there's weaknesses, we hope to find them before a bad guy does.
Yeah, because we all go to those TASB meetings where the FBI guy gets up there
I
and
know,
talks
it
about
scares
Yeah.
how scary the world is and how school districts are very vulnerable. So, yeah.
That guy's scary.
We get scared every year.
Well, I think, I remember Mr. Garr mentioning this last year's report, but we do ongoing training, and we do phishing, help, in terms of not trying to catch our employees, but we do with email, like, as you mentioned, school districts, but some have gotten into trouble with is making erroneous payments to vendors, and were lost millions of dollars and things like that, because they've gotten an email saying, hey, please pay this, it's
Right.
that kind of thing, so.
Phishing's the #1 attack right now. We do security awareness training. We frequently conduct phishing tests, right, to see who's vulnerable for that sort of thing. And if they fall for a phishing test, they're put into a remediation group to receive more training. I'm often surprised at how much everyone catches, right, and I respond with, good job, that's exactly right, but it's usually like, hey, this looks fishy. I'm like, you're right, it is fishy, delete it. Yeah.
So we purposefully do that.
Do you send them to the board members too?
No, I think
Okay,
try
good.
not to do
All right.
that to you.
Sure.
But to your point, it's ongoing. As he said, we're not perfect as long as the internet is up, can't shut off the internet, but we do our best to train and to keep people to be vigilant and aware not to.
I know for sure, when we get any email that comes to our midwayisd.org address, it says, warning, this came from outside the district,
Right.
or however it reads.
So
External,
I don't
yeah.
open them, so.
Yeah.
If you ever want me to read something, don't, but yeah.
And we could get into the weeds with some of our email rules. We have a ton of them, and some of them are pretty fancy, and I'd love to tell you all about them, but I'm not sure this is the right forum.
Okay, thank you.
Send us an email.
I have my own security plan, so you can tell you I don't read my emails.
Yes.
So if you never open them,
Exactly.
no problem.
Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Jesse. Appreciate it. Good job.
Thank you, good job.
Thank you, Jesse.
Thank you.
Monthly finance report, Mr. Brooks.
All right, good evening. Take a look at our January financial report. Just a few things I wanted to point out, starting out on page 11 of the report. I'm looking at our property tax revenue by month. So usually, January is our highest month for tax collections. Other than last year was an anomaly because of the negative tax consequence from the M&M Mars case. But usually, in January, we have our most collections, and we are usually about 80% of our levy and budget. This year, we are lower than that. We were at 70% of our levy, 71% of our budget. So I reached out to the appraisal district and the McLennan County Tax Office If you'll notice at the bottom of this report, the levy information, that blue box, 2021, our original levy was $56.2 million. And you see that large adjustment of $14.9 million after the certified values came out. And if you compare that there to the previous years, it doesn't even compare. It's astronomical, the change there. And so that's because there were a large number of values still under review when the values are certified. So the appraisal district thinks that may have pushed back some of just the deadlines, the due dates for some of those larger taxpayers, and so those are going to filter in later than they normally do. And according to the tax office, they're several weeks behind in processing tax collections. So they said our month of February may look like our typical January. So no big red flags after talking to them. We still expect to hopefully be within our budget for our tax collections, but that's why it does look a little slower than most years. Our budget projection, page 13, for the current year, you can see we're projecting an $83,000 deficit. That is significantly better than the last couple of months. The last couple of months, if you remember, were $600,000 or $700,000 deficit projection because of our drop in enrollment in ADA. Again, with that, the tax case from Mars, where we lost a lot of tax collections last year because several years back, we filed an audit with the comptroller, and so they recertified our 2018 and 2019 values and lowered those amounts due to that tax case, and so that generated more state funding. So we received about $800,000 this month in additional state funding. It'll be recognized in this year's financials, so it makes this year look better. We're projecting more closer to break even at this point, even with our drop in ADA. There is talk, the legislature, there rumors they may look at extending the ADA hold harmless. It is just through the first semester right now, but if they do, then that would also help us out, maybe another $500,000 if they extended that, but we're still not for sure if they're going to do that or not. There is a budget amendment in the consent agenda, budget amendment 21-5. That's to provide funds for the replacement of the turf field at Panther Stadium. This item is part of our athletics long-term maintenance plan, along with things like replacing scoreboards, court surfaces, lights, things like that. This is an item that, of course, is not in our current bond plan, as many of our other long-term building maintenance items are, like roof and HVAC. It's also larger in scope than what we can typically do in our summer projects budget, which is usually about $100,000 that we can pull out of our annual operating fund for those. So we're recommending that we use our committed fund balance for facilities maintenance to fund the replacement of the turf field for this. That would be completed this summer. As in the notes you'll see there, it was installed in 2010. Suggested useful life is 7 to 8 years, and we've stretched it over 10 years now. And so in addition, of course, we have another turf field, the MAC, that has to be replaced in a similar schedule. So if we do this now, then the MAC would be another few years, so maybe every 5 years we could kind of get into a pattern there instead of doing them all at once. The Panther Stadium is in good shape, according to Mr. Shelton, just because we were able to protect it and keep a lot of overuse. He did mention the MAC. It's kind of the other side of that. There's groups that use it all the time, and it actually probably gets more wear and tear than Panther Stadium, but we're hopeful we can get a few more years out of that. And finally, just financially, on last week's situation, you may have heard we had some water damage in Woodway Elementary and in the middle school and lost a boiler at Spring Valley. Fortunately, our insurance company treats that all as one event, so we only have to meet our deductible once for all of those, which is $25,000. And also along that, I'd just like to recognize our maintenance crew, and alongside with Target Restoration, did an amazing job working around the clock to get everything restored. There's several districts that can't have school this week either because of similar issues with water damage. Also our technology team, as Jesse mentioned, getting the generator going so we could have our servers operating, and Tuesday night our payroll, Shannon McCune and Cindy Pointer were up here till 10 o'clock because Jesse was able to get the servers going, running payroll so we could get our folks paid. So very proud of all our hard work this week, doing what we could. So, any questions?
Any of the crazy stuff going on with electric rates? I don't know with the structure of our contract on electricity usage. Are we at risk there?
We are. We're actually already have a rate locked in 5 years out. So we were just starting our new rate. I think
It's not a variable rate. was it?
April. No, it's fixed. We'd already had it locked in. I think it starts the first part of April. And so yeah, it's it was already in place, so not subject to the current volatility.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks, for the kind words. And thanks to all of you for allowing me to continue to work here. It's a great district, a great place to be. The site utility package that we started back in the fall at River Valley is close to completion. We can't finish it until they get the parking lot poured, and if you go out there and look at River Valley, they're setting the forms to pour the parking lot. As soon as they get that done, then we'll. About all we like on the site utility package is pulling in a second electrical feed from the other side of the campus. That'll be a backup electrical feed. River Valley, like I said, they're setting forms for the parking lot. They're going to start drilling piers Thursday. So it's moving along. CTE and Ag Science Shop is moving along. Most of the piers are drilled there. We should see concrete out of the ground there in the next couple of weeks. We may have already seen it by today if we hadn't had this week of weather that we've had. The new elementary, how many of you have driven down Ritchie Road the last few days? They've moved many yards of dirt in the last few days. If you go look at that site, you won't recognize it from what it was right before. It's exciting to see activity going on there. Plans are still progressing to complete phase 1 at Woodgate this summer. That'll be the 5th grade wing that currently will be redone this summer. Then we'll have school on that side next year, and then redo the other side. We're still hoping to do that and hoping to have you at a guaranteed maximum price at the April board meeting. I think Stephen will be here with the design development phase for phase 1 and a guaranteed maximum price. He's going to have the design development at the March meeting, right? And then the guaranteed maximum price in April. We have a pretty large HVAC project going on this summer. We're replacing all of the geothermal units at Midway Elementary and about half of the geothermal units at the high school. Don Penn of the IEG is helping us with that project, and we're meeting with him tomorrow to finalize the drawings, and those will be released soon, and we hope to have bids by March 16th on that. We're going to have like a walkthrough on March 3rd for that project, so we're excited about that. How many of you know what this is? This is a cast iron tee for cast purposes, steel pipe. That's what our sprinkler systems are put together with. 0 degree temperature and ice, that's what it will do to these. And that's why we had such a mess at Midway. Luckily, I had an idea, but I was a little bit late on it. After this one blew Tuesday morning, called Thomas, and we decided to go around and drain all the rest of the sprinkler systems. We started at Woodgate, and we were going to the middle school next. And while we were draining Woodgate, the fire alarm went off at the middle school, so it froze and burst before we could get there. But we did get to Castleman Creek and the stadium, got those drained. Where we didn't lose power, we were okay, except at Woodway. Woodway never lost power, but the envelope of that building is so bad that
favorite month of the year. I get to talk about my favorite topic. We are coming to a close on our annual CTE month celebration. We lost a week of celebrating last week, but we have a lot to be thankful and grateful for in CTE at Midway. So I'm going to share with you a few program updates. Most of this information is kind of updated that I share each year, but still worthy of celebration. And for one thing that is kind of new, I'm kind of springing on you a history lesson of where we have been in the United States regarding CTE programming and CTE education. I won't read through all of this, but this just kind of shows the impetus of CTE starting back in the mid to late 1800s when our workforce and our public education system had the forethought to come together and identify needs for students to learn skills that could be specific for workforce readiness and getting them ready to work in our areas of need in the labor market. And that's really the foundation of where CTE, what was called vocational education, then came from. I've mentioned to you when we celebrated the 100-year anniversary of the Smith-Hughes Act back in 2017. That's when our federal government started to invest in our CTE programming and supporting that through money. And originally it started with a very small area of study in ag and home ec, but expanded over the years. And now it's not so much in the programming study areas, but more in the student population itself. 1990 is when things really turned around in the world of vocational education, and a focus came on that we're preparing students for careers. And things really changed at that point from kind of tracking our students, if you will, into two tracks of our academically minded students and students that were college bound to and from a vocational minded track where students maybe wouldn't go the college route or weren't as academically minded that they needed a skill instead. Really, CTE came together in 1990 as an integrated focus for all students, and the federal government support of that through the Perkins Act, the Carl Perkins Act, really emphasizes the need for integration across the academic arena. It emphasized accountability at that time and really embraced the concept of business partnerships. So that was the turnaround for CTE. That's some of the stereotype we still fight today, that we're not talking about serving students who are not able to succeed in the academic arena. We're serving all students in CTE. And in 2018, Perkins was reauthorized to the Perkins 5. What it's called today is the Strengthening CTE for 21st Century Act, but it's really a reauthorization of that Perkins Act and that federal money that supports our programs. Any guess as to how much money our federal government gives annually to CTE programs across the nation? Any guess? I'm going to put you on the spot. How much? That's a really good guess. Almost $1.3 billion annually. I think that really speaks to the value of our programs. And though Midway doesn't see a whole lot of that money, because there are a lot of districts across the country that divides up to serve, it does help to support our efforts. And it helps to define the value. And I hope that you feel good about the investment that we put into our programs. Our community supports that, as is seen with our bond and the passing of that to support the building. So I just kind of wanted to celebrate the history of that a little bit with you. Really, the big ways that CTE impacts what's going on right here in our district, one of the ways we can be successful is because our programs generate their own weighted funding. Students that are sitting in CTE programs, did we lose?
I was just asking Ms. Milligan to take over.
Oh. Yes, they couldn't see it. Could you? Now I want to whisper. Ooh. I'll stand back. Generate some additional funding. CTE programs are very expensive to run. They require specialized equipment and software programs, different things that our students need access to, sometimes specialized facilities.
And so the funding, the additional funds that are generated for our CTE students in those programs go right back into those programs to help support that. And I think that's really important to be reminded of at this point, knowing that we're about to expand to a second middle school. We're going to be offering our CTE programs at the new middle school, just like we offer at the current middle school. That's very important to us, and the funding that our students are generating by being enrolled in CTE classes helps to support that and will help to fund that. The Perkins process that was revamped in 2018 really has put a focus and an emphasis on districts doing and conducting their own needs assessments based on some accountability indicators that are defined through Perkins. So I think that helps us make sure that what we're doing is up to par, up to standard. It's right for our students, and it is very specific to our student population. It allows us to kind of have a growth mindset and to be data-driven in what we're providing to our students. The really exciting thing that just has taken place over the last year is that TEA and the State Board of Education have finally gotten on the same page, and the programs of study that TEA defined, basically those are sequences of CTE courses that students can take, are now eligible to earn students the endorsements that the State Board of Ed defined. Measure success in CTE in a variety of ways. We look very closely at course enrollment. Remember that our CTE courses support 3 of the 5 endorsements, graduation endorsements, so we look at endorsement enrollment as well. Perkins came up with a new term that I introduced to you last year, a CTE learner. A CTE learner is coded for Perkins' sake, and those would be students who take 2 or 3 or 4 courses in a CTE program area, so sequences of courses toward a certain common interest. Our Cte Student Organizations are very active, as you know, and we review each year where they stand in contest success and our students' leadership positions in those organizations, so we'll talk about those briefly in a moment. Ccmr Accountability, which we talk about more often than just in February. There's really only one component, one indicator in that area that is specific to CTE at the moment, and that's industry-based certifications. But we are hoping that with the TEA and State Board of Ed alignment on endorsements and CTE sequences, that we can gain some support in course sequence completion as being an indicator for career readiness. Work-based learning experiences is the other really big area. Our students right now are having to really try to gain those experiences in the classroom setting because of COVID. Our students aren't able to go out to hospitals for clinical rotations right now. We're not sending our pre-education students down to our elementary campuses to work in classrooms. We're trying to recreate some of those experiences in the high school classroom setting, but I hope that we can get back to sending our students out into the community in some of those areas, hopefully soon. So just a reminder of the 5 graduation endorsements. We offer all 5 to our students here in Midway. 3 of those are supported by CTE coursework. And so the next few slides, I'm going to show you our CTE student enrollment based really inside those 3 endorsements: business and industry, public service, and STEM. You probably recall me mentioning before, the U.S. Department of Education has created 16 career clusters so that every state can take all CTE courses and fit them into one of those career clusters. Each career cluster is focused toward a certain pathway of careers. These, according to our data, are our top 10. This is where we see the highest student enrollment of Midway students in grades 7 through 12. Our top career cluster on enrollment is Ag Science, and knowing that we have been the largest FFA chapter in the state for a couple of years, over the last 5 years, that probably isn't surprising. Health Science is our second largest career cluster in enrollment, and you can see there just broken down. The green career clusters are aligned to the business and industry endorsement. We've got business, marketing, and finance, arts and AV, and hospitality and tourism coming in there at number 10. The red clusters align to public service, and then the blue align to our STEM. endorsement areas. Looking at the data a little bit differently, and specifically with student enrollment counts for both our middle school and high school campuses, you can see there our largest enrollment is business and industry with 54%. Our public service enrollment is about 26%. We don't currently offer any public service classes at the middle school level, so all of the red portion of that chart is high school enrollment only. And then in the blue portion of the chart, I think that's about 20%, is our STEM enrollment. The really startling number, in a good way, is the number in the bottom right corner of the screen. Almost 5,200 seats in grades 7 through 12 are coded to CTE. So I used the example of my son at the high school. He's taking 3 CTE classes this year, so he would count as 3 seats. And all of those seats are generating that additional funding that's helping to support our programming. That's an increase in enrollment, so we're really excited about that. This was a slide I found interesting. I attended a virtual CTE conference a couple of weeks ago, and one of the presenters shared this. It's updated from the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, a 10-year projected growth of the fastest growing occupations in the nation. If you just take a glance and look down that list, you'll notice that many of those are healthcare related. So I think it speaks really well to the fact that that's our second largest career cluster of enrollment here at Midway, and it's going to be a large part of our new CTE construction, serving our health science and biomedical science areas. You'll also notice there's a lot regarding energy and like the oil, natural gas, service technicians, and things like that. We don't currently teach coursework in that, but I think what we do inside of our ag mechanics classes in our partnership with GWAMA is supporting careers in those areas and preparing students for work in those areas. You'll also notice a few areas of STEM, information security analysts. One of the areas I think is interesting is that very last bottom occupation category with behavioral disorders, mental health counselors, substance abuse. This data came pre-COVID, and I think we'll see some increases in that area, so this could change drastically post-COVID. I shared this slide with you last year, and this is still our most current data. This was given to us by TEA so that we could conduct our needs assessment for Perkins. What this slide does is it compares students in Midway ISD to each other. So students who are considered CTE learners, they're taking those sequences of courses, compared to students who are not taking sequences of CTE courses. Maybe they just take 1 or 2 here and there. And in each of those indicators across the bottom, though you don't have the key to show you what they are, what these indicators are, these are 4-year graduation rates. These are STAR tests in English, in math, and in science. It shows in the orange bar on each of those that represent our CTE learners, that our CTE learners in Midway are outperforming our non-CTE learners in all of those areas that are looked at in Perkins. And I think that supports, it definitely supports what Perkins is looking at, but it supports what we know is best practice for our students. If CTE is working and they are taking sequences of courses that are meant to integrate academics, what they're learning, bringing relevance to that, but also aligning to real world, doesn't it make sense that those students would be performing better and understanding their academic content in a better sense? And so I think that speaks very well to how our students are performing and how our CTE students are representative of that. This also is a repeat slide, just in another way highlights in our, how our district compares to statewide numbers as well. And the 3 highlighted areas there with STAR, academic proficiency in reading, language arts, math, and science, that's STAR test scores. Our district performance compared to statewide CTE learners, we are significantly higher, and I think that speaks well. One area that we have highlighted as an area of focus is trying to figure out how we can get more non-traditional students in programs. Really, that looks at males in traditional female programs, males in healthcare, for example, or females in traditional male programs. Just as a reminder, our Cte Student Organizations, these will all sound familiar. We have students compete each year in BPA, FFA, in HOSA, in our robotics competitions, in Skills USA, and in FCCLA. I don't have current updated numbers. All of our students are competing virtually this year at this point, but BPA is being successful. We've moved students on to the next round, and just hot off the press, HOSA has 8 students that have qualified for state competition as well. So, and ag is going strong. We've got our tractor tech team has qualified for state. We're right in the middle of livestock shows, and we just had our McLennan County Livestock Show here, and we're seeing a lot of success with our students still, even though we're in a virtual environment. It is actually a student organization that encompasses a lot of competition that even the other organizations see. It's actually our students that compete in Skills USA, they do it through our partnership with GWAMA.
Okay.
So it's students at GWAMA that are competing in Skills USA. And a lot of times that's going to be in the areas of manufacturing and welding.
Oh, gosh.
Mm-hmm. Some things to celebrate. You know, our students are remaining competitive in Cte Student Organizations, even though that's virtual this year, as I just mentioned. Our course enrollment remains strong. We're working to be creative in meeting student needs through virtual learning environments, though that has posed some challenges this year. One really exciting thing, and this isn't necessarily a CTE-specific celebration, but I do think when you think back to that data of CTE learners perform better because we're integrating the academic knowledge that they need to perform on STAR exams and things like that, STAR end-of-course exams and things like that. The TSI, which, if you'll recall, is the assessment that we use to determine college readiness, students being able to enter into, say, MCC courses without the need for developmental coursework in reading and math. We have seen over the last 5 years a complete flip in our data in a good way. MCC just provided us data to show that we have now 66% of our students that attend MCC are entering without the need for developmental coursework. And 5 years ago, that we had 66% needing developmental coursework. So what efforts we have, not just in CTE, but in how we're preparing students for both college and career, they're working. And that's one thing to celebrate. The legislative session, as you know, is in full swing, even though it's in an unusual way and circumstance. There are some things that we're watching from a CTE standpoint that I just wanted to bring to your attention. House Bill 334 is related to funding for CTE programs. Currently, the weighted funding that's generated for CTE programs, school districts are required to spend 55% of that back into the CTE program directly, and the other 45% is kind of flex use. I hope I didn't misspeak, Mr. Brooks. This bill is actually proposing 90% of that weighted funding go back into CTE program. I don't know that it will be successful. That's a pretty heavy fiscal note, and school districts aren't going to support that, I don't think, because it takes away their flexibility. House Bill 773 is one I do hope gets a little bit of traction. It's looking at the programs of study, those TEA programs of study, and completing a program of study as an accountability indicator for Ccmr. Years ago, our Code 2s, I don't know if you recall, CTE, we used to code students, and Code 2s were our sequence completers. That was an indicator. It was removed because it didn't have a lot of, there was too much subjectivity for school districts. It didn't have a lot of stability across, as being measured across the state. But programs of study is a very different story, and I really hope that that gets some traction. One thing, and Mr. Umhofer and I have talked about this at great length, there is a bill that's been proposed. Currently, fine arts is a requirement for graduation. CTE is not by the state, but Midway ISD has voted to have CTE as a requirement for graduation. Currently, this bill is proposing that either CTE or fine arts could be used to meet that graduation requirement. My state organization for CTE is not supporting that. Mr. Umhofer's organization for music education is not supporting that, of course. We don't want to pit our programs against each other. We feel very strongly that CTE and fine arts are both beneficial to students, and so I just kind of wanted to let you know our stance on that and how our executive directors of our two organizations have worked very closely with Mr. Umhofer and myself to try to make sure we're all on the same page on that. This is my absolute favorite slide, and so I just want to leave you with a couple of things. Our yearbook sponsor and CTE teacher, Jamie Beavers, last year gathered some student comments about various classes that they were taking in order to fulfill some copy that she was including in our student yearbook, and she shared some of the comments with me, and I think that these comments speak so greatly. And they were solicited, yes, but not guided at all. And so to see that students are taking from our classes, our CTE classes, what we hope they take away. The ag mechanics comment, this class is helpful to me because I get to work with my hands and it teaches me math too. That speaks to the level of integration CTE is trying to bring into the classroom, bringing math to life in what they're doing. The aerospace engineering makes me better at using formulas. Computer science fits with my college major. Our students that are taking these classes are going to leave Midway and be prepared for anything that they are up against. I fully believe that, and I think that our teachers are doing an incredible job of bringing that to life. I think that our campus and district leaders and the support of our program, your support, our community support, is bringing a real life meaning to what these kids are here doing every day, and I just thank you for it. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, so the list of growing professions in the U.S. look at, but a lot of those are McLennan County.
Certainly.
So, I mean, I know we can rerun those based on just our MSA, but I think more importantly, what are our connections looking like with our major employers in town? So we happen to have, the leading manufacturing, one of the leading manufacturing sectors in the state is right here, and a lot of it's in our district. So Coke and Mars and Allergan and a lot of those guys. What are we doing there for outreach and connecting with them, seeing what they want out of our students and connecting our students with jobs with them?
So on the front of connecting students with jobs, I think that is, we're really not doing what we could be doing there. I'll be honest. We post job openings. We talk with them about job opportunities that students maybe in high school or right out of high school could explore. But as far as connecting skills that we're doing, I think that we have some room for improvement there. What we do is more soft skill, I should say. So we have, for example, the old junior roundup, which is now Panther Prep. We've got one of our teachers is working on getting, since we're virtual, getting area businesses to talk about what they're looking for in employees. In future employees, what skills, soft skills, what technical skills that they're looking to hire. So they're working on videos that are going to be shared with our students in the Panther Prep opportunity. So we're kind of bridging in that way, but regarding actually getting students out of the classroom and maybe into job shadowing or internship opportunities, I think we have room to bridge there, and that's where we need to bring our next focus.
Yeah, I think me, you, and George need to go on a road show with our major employers and
well, and to me, the teachers are key.
Pull them in.
The teachers are key, and what I would really like to see is an opportunity for our teachers in the summer to do an externship. I would like to get teachers out with employers to see, so that teachers can find ways to make that bridge and to bring it to life in the classroom, but also build the partnership and the relationship where they can take students on tours or connect students who maybe need a job or can work a job and work on some skill set while they're in high school or immediately after high school. Another thing that is a big plus this year is Nicole Miles, who is one of our avid teachers who's spending her time now in our new College and Career Center. She has started a job board. She's reaching out to employers. She has some relationships and partnerships already in place with the mentor program. I can't remember what that's called. LEAD, is that right?
Yeah.
The mentor program there, and has started small there, but it's starting to flood in people talking about jobs. For example, the new Top Golf that's coming to town, looking for students, saying we can hire students while they're in high school or right after high school. And so trying to get the word to students and how they can do that, it's happening in small pockets, but I think where we really need to bridge is systemically.
Doing a great job.
Yes, she's doing a fantastic job.
What all do you need to help us make that happen, to change?
It's really time. I mean, it's really just like you said, haven't taken a road show out. I really feel like if I could take teachers from, certain areas, support our engineering teachers out meeting with folks, support our accounting teachers, support our business teachers. They have excellent connections with business partners in pockets. For example, our accounting teacher, when students are preparing each year for accounting contests, she works with local accountants. They come in, they help to train our students. They're having conversations about what to do to prepare for a job in accounting. I mean, those conversations are happening all over, very real conversations. But actually using that as an opportunity to say, we want to support you now so that you can come and work for us after. That is where we have gaps. And I feel like we really just need to support our teachers having some time to do that and to build those relationships. And I really think that we can think creatively. With the reauthorization of Perkins, there could be some support of us even subbing teachers out one day a semester where they can go and work with an employer, take students with them to do that, and to create some authentic experiences. And from there, I think it will grow exponentially. And tapping into expert connections in the industry that we can do that.
Dates? I mean, what do we want to talk about? Do we want to try to push that forward?
Yeah, sign me up. Let's go.
Do we ask someone to help look into that besides Ashley, or does Ashley? I know it's a lot. I know.
It's just time.
Yeah.
Effort in this new CTE building.
Mm-hmm.
COVID. I know, COVID.
COVID and the
Makes
protocols
everything
and not being able to see people face to face and get next year, hopefully, vaccinations and things like that.
Yeah, work-based learning experiences are a huge part of a need in CTE programming, and I feel like that is my area of, my goal right now is to find ways that we can improve that. And it's been challenging with COVID, but we can get creative. So I appreciate your
trying to find
offer.
a connection beyond, like you can see a direct connection sometimes with students in the healthcare. They may do some clinicals in hospital. They have directly go to. It's finding how some of the things that may not be exactly the match
A direct path.
to go into a business or industry, because the course isn't as maybe we're teaching more broader or entry level than some of the businesses, and trying to make those, to me, those connections is what I see. Like your accounting example's right, but there are some other things.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example that I've hired high school kids that are good at coding to do some programming for us. I mean, they can go program for anybody. Once they know how to program, they can do it. They can go anywhere, and is a summer job probably make more than, even if they're going to go to college. I mean, what a great side gig to have. So,
For sure.
So I think there are a lot of opportunities out there. We just need to make the connections. And most businesses don't realize how incredibly gifted a lot of these kids are. Like and the experiences they're getting in high school are so much more than they got. So we've got, I think, in kind of taking that roadshow model a little bit. I mean, we would do a huge the value we would show those employers that we're providing to those students. They don't know what we do. So I think we would do ourselves a lot of good.
Well, and so many of our teachers and our students don't realize all of the different opportunities available within a specific industry. For example, at Capstone, you're not just looking for someone to work as an engineer or someone to work in HVAC installation and repair. You've got accountants, you've got HR managers, you've got programming needs, you've got a variety of ways that we can partner, not just in one area.
Yeah.
And I think some of it is just educating both sides of the aisle so that we can find ways to partner. But those types of conversations with students, they don't happen in large settings. They don't happen in a 15-minute advising appointment with a counselor. They happen in the CTE classroom. And so we've really got to get our teachers in connection and protect some time for them to do that, I think. And so if we do a roadshow, I think we need to get a couple of choice teachers out as well to join us. And I would love to brainstorm a way to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Happy CTE month.
What'd she say?
Happy CTE month.
Oh, yeah, happy CTE month.
All right, consideration items, the consent agenda. We have minutes from special call board meetings, our regular January meeting, the new clubs, 26 early graduation requests, budget amendments, our schematic design, our professional service agreement, waiver for the missed school days, approve our resolution on the employee pay, and then our update 116 on our local policies listed there. Does any board member wish to remove any item from the consent agenda?
I'd like to remove the schematic design technology center, please.
All right, we'll remove number 8. So 1 through 7 and 9 through 12. Anybody wish to remove any of those? If not, do we have a motion to approve 1 through 7 and 9 through 12 on the consent agenda? Motion by Mr. Alford.
Second.
Second by Ms. Vick. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries. Number 8, Mr. Pagel.
I've made my point, I think, on it, but I want to hear from the rest of them.
I think we ought to, I don't know whether we need to bring it back with the changes or whether it's okay for the, administration to say they've heard it and that we build the flex stuff in there. I don't know what's the right process here. I mean, that's the schematic on that's not nearly as involved as it is, say, for the new elementary school.
Right.
Right.
So I don't know whether this can be handled without a need for another drawing and delaying it or not.
Right.
Right, especially if we're thinking of just not putting in some of those offices right now and leaving some open space. Would it just be talking about how many offices you really, really need?
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we provide the needs, because I understand we have them for private offices, but to the extent that we can, we leave as much space open and flexible. But that's just my thought.
Yeah,
So
I hadn't thought about it till you brought that up, so.
Well, in listening to the discussion, one of the things that struck me is the bond projects as a whole, and I understand the CTE is, the tech piece of this is a little different than that, but I think the goal should be lined up with, we're trying to build something that would handle the growth of the district for the next 10 years, basically.
Right.
And I don't think we ought to finish that side of the building out in a fashion that would not allow Jesse's department to still fit in there without people having to be in closets in the next 10 years.
Right, I know we have
That's my
space.
view, is it ought to have at least that long a lifespan. And I don't know what, the size of the department looks like. If we grow to, 10,500 students, I think that's sort of the round number that we looked at for the end of the 10 years. And I understand the crystal ball gets real hazy when you get out that far on growth projections on student population. But my view is we ought to be looking at sort of the same sort of thing for the technology side of this building, is that it's still very functional for Jesse and his staff, as it were, at that point, and not out of space up 5 years down the road.
Well, then with that said, I know we're out of space currently in Excel, and I'm really excited about the possibilities of the number of students we can accommodate with the plan you've got in place. But I'm very curious. It's kind of a hybrid learning situation, if you will, where we can have kids on our campus but learning more virtually. Correct? I mean, it's an alternative learning format, like some of them have had at home learning virtually. I'm just really curious to see how that might grow post-COVID, if that makes sense. I want to make sure we don't cap ourselves beyond what we might see in the next 10 years. I want to make sure we can accommodate kids who learn better in that environment. The numbers that we have are great. I just want to make sure we leave room to expand if we need it.
I agree with you.
But will that be enough for the next 10 years out?
Well, what you do then is you look at those alternative sessions as well.
Yeah.
Where some students have, our hope is to have these combined programs where maybe they do some of the CTE
Right.
classes in that week for part of the day.
Right,
There,
right,
some hybrid learning.
right.
The good thing is the at-home learning doesn't work for everyone. Some of our at-risk students really need
Right.
to be there where there's additional services.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's what the plan is.
Right.
I think that it realistically is a good plan for 10 years.
Okay.
Good. My thought is, I would, my thought is to hand it back to administration and the designers and using their judgment, whether or not they can come up with a more flexible space.
For sure.
Because I do not want to delay anything. I
No.
don't think we need to run it back through, and I agree with Pam. I think the educational side of it is, is wonderful.
I'm thrilled. I'm doing happy dances about this.
Yeah, I was just going to add, if you think about it this way, it has more potential on the Excel side for growth than any of the other buildings. Meaning,
right.
if we're serving 50 to 55 and we're talking about total of maybe 240 or
Right.
4 or 5 times more.
Right.
So for your 10-year growth, I think we're adequate.
Okay.
But it could be wrong. Like you said, it could be an exponential growth in that after COVID, and it could be, huge demand.
But we don't lose anything at this stage by being flexible all
Right.
across the building,
Right,
I think.
right.
But
So,
it's a
yeah.
very exciting plan. I'm thrilled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, definitely, I appreciate what Tom said. Yes, we can work with that.
So,
I don't know how you make that into a motion.
I defer to
well,
council.
we're not going to approve it as it currently
Can be as
exists, because it's
presented.
going to get changed.
Exactly. But I want to give, me personally, I'm 1 out of 7, so I don't know how you word it, but I want to give the administration the flexibility to go back and look at the design and come up with more open space that leaves us greater opportunity for growth in the future. But leave it up to them and not have to vote on it again. I have confidence that they can do that and that they will do that effectively.
Or as an alternative, it's not that difficult. Have a special call board meeting. If it takes them a week to do it, come back in a week, and don't have everybody here. People could still participate remotely. We've still got
We
rules
could
suspended.
Zoom it.
We could even do the meeting remotely.
Sure.
We don't have to wait until March, whatever it is, the day.
23rd.
23rd, yeah, same day of the month. We don't have to wait a month, That's one alternative. What do you think?
I like Tom's idea better, but 'cause I want to move on. I mean, I do. We need to move with the
I want to
plans.
move on, I want to
'Cause
hand it to them.
I'm worried about the timeline and getting the technology folks in there in the house.
Maybe the motion is to say we move the administration on their own, with their own authority, reconfigure the data side to be more open, flexible office space.
I think that
Does that
sounds
sound
very good.
Sort of?
Is that official enough? Can we second that?
Mhm.
Okay, you're gonna have to repeat that.
It's one time only.
The recording on the virtual, the Zoom. Yeah, I don't, move that the administration reconfigure the data side of the new tech building to have a more open business floor,
Flexibility.
flexible floor plan.
At their discretion.
at their discretion.
Second.
So we're not gonna approve a schematic design?
You got to guide us here.
I'm just asking the question.
What's that motion?
And the other as
Do
presented.
I need to add to that motion to this schematic design?
Please, ma'am.
Okay. To the schematic design of the,
So let me restate your motion, Ms. Smith, to make sure that I heard it right.
okay,
You move that we approve the schematic design as presented, subject to the administration at their discretion, changing up the technology side to provide more flexibility.
yes, sir, that is perfect. You read my mind very well there.
And Mr. Pagel seconded that.
And
motion.
I second that.
Everybody understand the motion?
What are we talking about again?
We're talking about,
No, I'm kidding, I'm just kidding.
I know, I was fixing to give you an appropriate response, ma'am. If everybody understands the motion, any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You got your marching orders?
I got them.
All
Let's
right.
go.
You happy?
Guiding
Okay.
principles for the attendance rezoning process.
So hopefully you had a chance to look at our work from our workshop this afternoon, and you'll notice the two different ones. One of them has, again, the themes in the middle of our guiding principles, the 4 themes, with explanatory notes to further explain that concept. The second one was, again, combining several of the 11 that were initially posted and combining those thoughts into 4. In looking at them, both of them certainly can guide us as we work with Mr. Templeton to rezone. But I recommend the one that has the 4 summary themes with the explanatory notes. It does take out anything of ordering or any implication of ranking. It is just a compilation of what was from our thought exchange. We'll certainly consider all 4 of those themes, as well as understand how they're explained in their explanatory notes, and use those with Mr. Templeton as we begin the process of developing new zones for our elementary schools.
So they're the same 4 themes,
I like the one without the numbers.
That's the one yes, sir, that's the one I'm recommending.
okay.
I agree. I like that one.
Yep.
Good.
Do you need a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
I move that we approve the guiding principles for rezoning with the explanatory notes that are not ranked.
Motion by Ms. Watts to approve the guiding principles as she's indicated.
Second.
Second by
Oh,
Mr.
I see what
Tillis.
number you're talking about, those numbers.
Any questions, discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. That motion carries.
Thank you.
We have.
And thank you,
one-
Tracy, for
Thank you, Ms.
pulling a
Marlin.
rabbit out of a hat there.
Yes. We have one professional recommendation we need to act on. Have a motion to approve the professional recommendation. Excuse me?
The board members don't have that in front of them this week, because it's not an addendum, it was in the board packet.
Right.
Right.
I understand that. But we still need a motion to
Yes, sir.
approve the
Yes,
professional recommendation.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pagel.
Second.
Second by Mr. Alford. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We don't need to go in closed session for anything?
No, sir. No, sir.
That's a good answer.
Well done.
Consideration of the superintendent's 2021-22 performance goals as part 2 of your evaluation process, sir.
Okay. Based on our discussion in January, just as a reminder, the current 5 goals would remain in place. Remember, 3 of those are related to House Bill 3, which is required by law. One of them regards CCMR outcomes. The other two, one of them is early literacy and early numeracy, math and reading. And so those would remain. They're also included in our district in campus improvement planning. The other one is related to our bond projects in terms of on budget and on time. And then the final one is we kicked off with our Team of 8 training, but continuing to flesh out and develop the community-based accountability system. The bullets that you see, that it's on page, if you follow with me, 507 of your board packet, discuss things that I have met with my team, assistant superintendents, executive team, about just some areas that they are focusing on. I asked them the question, this year, one of the main things you really want to accomplish in your jobs and in your area of expertise. But in looking through all of those, if you'll look at this one, kind of keeps coming back. It's the third bullet. And so, again, I was just charged that, certainly I'm happy with 5. If these are things we're going to do anyway that are listed there on page 507. That's the work of the district and work of our teams. But we can continue that. I'm sorry, the third one is regarding matching the diversity of student population. We've been looking at that with our staffing. We have made some inroads, but we continue to brainstorm and been looking at other, basically developing a different strategic planning for recruitment. It's really recruitment and interviewing processes for our teacher as well as staff diversity in our school district. So that one to me still rings of most importance, but I certainly welcome your input in that area if there's something different. The discussion, you may recall, that has been a goal several years ago. Was it?
No, I remember that. I think we always said it would be ongoing. It wasn't something we were going to achieve quickly. So I think that's good.
So you're recommending to pick
Officially.
1 or 2 of those?
Officially, I'm recommending the 1 this time.
Okay.
But officially.
In addition
Officially, to
to
give you
the
6.
current
To give you
5?
6
Yes.
goals.
Can we rank them with explanatory notes?
Yeah, I was not getting a ranking. No. But that's what, if not, like I said, I'm happy with 5, but again, our discussion was possibility brainstorming a couple of others to consider for performance goals.
How are we going to decide that if they see go with number 3, next year we evaluate it, how are we going to decide that it was accomplished or not?
You would look at baseline where you are and see progress.
Just the demographics and staff?
Right.
Okay, yeah.
Well, and part of it is providing training, so you're going to have, whether you've provided the training.
Training regarding this.
Did you train or not?
Developing of a plan. I know that sounds without metrics, but yes, but we have began the process this week of looking at what could this plan be. And so we certainly want to share that with you. It's quite an aggressive plan because again, they're goals. I'll take it. I want to reach goals, but again, it does drive the work. And sometimes, as you said, they don't meet them. I don't meet them. But the district doesn't. But at least, we put our best effort out there to meet that. And so I think they're symbolic in the sense that they're stated goals and that it's important. And I appreciate that in and of itself.
Yes, I think we should add it as a goal, make it an official 6th goal. Because it is important to all of us, it has been.
Sounded to me like Ms. Vick made a motion.
Yes, I move that we add training all principals in hiring practices and what to look for when hiring staff that matches the diversity of student populations on the campuses to the superintendent's official list of goals for 2021.
Basically, it's for the 21. Yeah.
21, 22.
What year are we in? 21, 22.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Vick, second by Mr. Pagel. Further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That motion carries also. March board meeting date, y'all don't want to meet during spring break, I take it.
Well, the meeting didn't fall. However, if you look at this next, we're in this week, then we have 1 week and then break. So I'm just saying, yeah, the 1 extra week would be great for agenda item development. So it would be a month from today, March 23rd. This meeting was delayed because of the Snowpocalypse. But you, just as a reminder, you approved these already. It was just really an announcement. I'm trying to see what we put on here for it. Yeah, that's under my communication. You'll notice there on page 509 of your packet, these were approved previously. When we start the year, we approve all the board dates, but it's just a reminder that it's March 23rd. 1 week delayed. But Mr. Russick is exactly correct. It is due to spring break.
Right.
The other things then, I just want to proudly announce about the success of our vaccine clinic, our work with Ascension Providence, their collaboration and reaching out to us was second to none. We administered 388 vaccines to those in the 1A, 1B. Waco ISD the same day did 390, so we were told that was a record for one day across the county. Wow. Put in that many shots. I mean, the county's doing it, but not that many shots all at one time. So very proud of that. Of course, our second clinic is tentatively scheduled, but I think setting in stone soon on Saturday, March the 13th, to get the second dose. It's Pfizer. So many volunteers, though. Our nurses are phenomenal. All were there to serve. Many of the folks in this room were volunteers to help. Becky Odejima ran the registration system and Google Doc and Google signups for me, and she didn't want to see me walking down the hall, I don't think anymore, but I promised to stay away for a few weeks, so she might like me again. But I was constant because I'm nervous about these numbers. We're trying to, because we only had so many shots. Right. I hate to say that, but toward the end we had a few more that Tracy was able to send a text to staff, and it was first come, first serve. And it was truly like the fishes in the loaf story from the Bible, is that we put it out there. The directions were to let Tracy know by quick email if you want it. However, some did come without that, but everyone that did come, we administered and we had enough shots. Meaning, I don't think they've ever gotten to where after they opened the vial, that it goes to zero waste. Because when you pull it down, you're guaranteed 5 shots from each grouping, but you can probably get 6. They got 6 from that last one, and there were 6 people.
Wow.
And there was no waste.
Wow.
And that is a very valuable commodity, y'all know. I know. The vaccine, and very valuable for our staff to have it. So it was, again, a good day for that. So.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord. We got it all in them, and we'll have our second, and we're hopeful. Now they're going to do more outreach with some of the outlying districts, but hopefully they'll do something, with us. They see our ability to organize and mobilize and to get people, so they really do see the value of schools in using us to help get more shots in arms, because we can do it. We can do that.
So you think we could have a clinic after the 1A, 1B for the next round of teachers?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome.
So. And it's already been said, and I appreciate your comments, but Wesley started it. But really, Mr. Freeman and his team, we're here because of him and his team.
Yes.
That we had school on Monday.
Yeah.
Because you'll notice, he's tired, and texting him late, and Woodway PD calling about 9:30 one evening, and we thought we had everything cleaned up and done. We go, oh no, here's another alarm. We thought another pipe at first, but anyway, again, thanks is not enough, but you'll notice other schools no critical of that, may not have started on Monday or delayed this and that, but it's because it was available and immediately went to the problem. We got Target. Thanks to Rick Tullis and Capstone to help us with the boiler at Spring Valley, these partnerships we have and relationships in getting folks and our people there to get us open for school, and to do it on Monday morning without further delays. I have friends and colleagues across the state that they're hoping by this coming Monday, but there's no guarantee. They have significant damage, and they can't get labor to get there. They can't get the Capstones of the world. They can't get Targets of the world, and plumbers and others to get in there and finish the job. They may have stopped the bleed, if you will, stopped the water, cleaned up water, but not to be operational. Where we've been operational. And Rudy, Fred, our new director of food service, his managers came up over the weekend, went threw away, put the orders in, got the deliveries on Monday morning so we could have food service. So is in Jesse and his team. They were working nonstop with the technology. It truly was a test of our backups. We learned from some of that, but also knew that we could keep it going because that school didn't have power. Midway Middle School it's in Hewitt, and that grid was out
Right,
quite a bit. And so this new center and the generator that's there is very, as he keeps saying, very, very vital for our long-term.
Yeah, we need to be very thankful too for the city. I know that's kind of been a little more documented, but people probably don't realize how close they got
to the water,
to having to do a boil order because there wasn't enough, not enough pressure in the system. And so a lot of great work on their part to keep us from having to get to that point. Because that's what's hurt a lot of these other communities too, is you take the power and water crisis and multiply those together. So
you're exactly right.
A lot to be thankful for.
You said cities, you're right. I'm looking at him, Jeff Foley over there, our SRO, he was working to beat that week. For Hewitt, you had nursing homes calling, looking for help possibilities. He was right there to assist, to guide, to help. We did whatever, used some of our Suburbans and vehicles to transport some to warming stations, things like that. I mean, we do what we got to do, and I appreciate Jeff. I see him here. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
And all he did, he was on it all the time to help these calls that we were getting. I couldn't be a warming center for everyone though, because many schools did not have consistent power either. So that was our problem. I know Allison opened the high school to some of the staff. Luckily, the high school pretty much consistent with power, but it was pretty dicey there for a few days. So. Again, I know we need time to go, but thank you, buddy.
Yes.
And team and everyone, our administrative teams and teachers, they came in, got their rooms ready to go. Woodway staff came in on Saturday, got it up and running. So it's because of kids.
Yeah, we're blessed.
Keeping normalcy for our families to have to go to work this Monday and keep going.
Yep.
Instead of having other delays and hardships.
Yep.
So.
Thank you, George.
Thank you,
for all
George.
did
Thank
too.
you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome.
Thank you, everybody. God bless us, everyone.
Oh, did you sign up? Sorry. If we missed you, we're sorry.
Okay.
That's okay. It's, okay. So thank you, Cindy. So again, thanks to our principals and staff to getting everything ready to go. And we are, as I said, moving on, and we do have some more repairs. I know Buddy and team, just so you know, probably spring break, really checking the sheetrock and things like that around the Woodway Elementary wings, as well as the one wing there at the middle school. Just to be sure if we don't have to take any of that down and replace. It's airing now. What do you call it? Putting the holes in the and then we'll cover it back up with the baseboards. Yes, sir. So
Thank you to George.
Yes.
You did. Thank you.
you're welcome.
There really was some great communication. I
Yes.
mean, I got a lot of compliments on how well you communicating through that process.
Yes.
So, good job.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Great leader.
Your waivers are very much appreciated. Now I know it's on consent, but we will send that. And the documentation everyone has collected from our teams to TEA. Question that continues to be asked, but the Friday before all this started, we did close because of the sleet that happened on Thursday. That day will be made up on May the 28th. It's a Friday. It's already a bad weather day in the calendar, but we do need to use it to make up that Friday. But the rest, this last week, will not have to be made up.
So glad the state did that. That's
Yes.
good. It's the right thing.
It's great. Yep.
All right.
I'm out of items under communication, sir. I'll let you say your favorite phrase, though.
Superintendent is out of items. And since the superintendent is out of items, we're out of items, and we're adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
So, George, the comment I heard was if only